the truth to power. Life's not that long, just a few short hours. So make each minute count, make every second matter. Just give me one more day to get it right. I need just one more day.
Transplant Talk with Nashonda, Thursday, 7 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Transplant Talk with Nashonda. I am your hostess with the mostest, Nashonda Larimore. We are coming at you live in honor of, hopefully everyone remember what this month is, because it's a very, very special month. So this month we have our National Donate Life Month, and we are honoring donors and we're honoring recipients with letting them tell their story. Let me slow down speaking so fast. Let me just slow down. But I am super excited about our guests today. So again, I just want to say again, April is National Donate Life Month. And ladies and gentlemen, I cannot believe that we started this in 2020. We started this in 2020 and we are in 2023. I am approaching 100 episodes, guys, and I'm super excited to share every moment with you all. Now, today is still about Transplant Talk and Save 1,000 Lives, having people register to become organ donors. So if you know anyone that would like to register to become organ donors, they could visit Donate Life Florida. And once you complete the application, you can then add, how did you hear about Florida Donor Registry? Click Other, and please specify Save 1,000 Lives. And so that is what we have. You know, I also like to know where everyone is from. So go ahead and drop those in the chat so that we can get your information and see where everyone is from. And then if you have any questions, please just let us know. And once again, I'm super excited about this show. We have a dynamic guest, okay? And she is right here in Florida, in Orange Park, Florida, to be exact. So I'm in Jacksonville, so she's not too far from me. You know what? We almost could have had this thing live in my studio, but it is okay. StreamYard is the next best thing. So I actually have two special guests today. I have an extra host with me, and her name is Miss Jessica with Life Quest. And so we're going to be doing this duo thing today. We're going to be the dynamic duels today. So I need you to sit back and relax. But before you do that, make sure you text somebody, tell somebody about this this show today, because it is one that you would not want to miss. Okay, you do not want to miss this. Now, before I bring her on, I have to use my not red carpet, but green carpet, and I just want you all to see this beautiful young lady. She is a double lung recipient. Yes, I said it. She's a double lung recipient. She just celebrated an anniversary. This is year 3 for her. I hope I say that right. This is year 3 for her receiving her double lung transplant. We're going to hear more about that story in just a few minutes. Let me just give her the grand green carpet entry. All right, everybody, my first guest I'm going to bring on is Miss Jessica. And the next guest is the one and only, the phenomenal, the fabulous double lung transplant recipient, Miss Melanie Daniels. I wish I had a drum roll, please. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. This story is going to blow your absolute mind. It's going to blow your mind. But let's get into it with Miss Melody Daniels. Miss Melody, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Awesome. And Jessica, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for letting me come on and talking with both of you guys.
Listen, thank you for asking us to do this. So I am super excited that you are, you're both here. And Miss Jessica, but you know what? Before we do Melanie, Miss Jessica, tell everybody what you do with LifeQuest, just in case they need you to come talk to the church, the schools, or what have you.
Yeah, so I am the education coordinator in Jacksonville with LifeQuest. What I do is to talk about organ donation with as many people as possible, share the message of donation, answer any questions people have about the misconceptions or anything they have regarding organ donation. So I go into the high schools talking to those students that are about to get their driver's license, colleges for those nursing students that are heading into the medical field, and pretty much anybody in the community that will listen to this message. So that's, church groups, out in the community at different festivals and fairs, but just trying to continue to spread the message of organ donation.
And we definitely appreciate you for being that vessel in the community and bringing everyone together. And again, I'm super excited that LifeQuest asked me to do this again. So y'all, I'm doing it again. So this special guest, Miss Daniels, you still doing okay?
I am.
All right, you're not nervous, are you?
I'm not.
I see. Listen, y'all see that smile? She is ready to go, and she got those fresh lungs, so she is ready to talk. Okay, so Miss Melody, tell us a little bit about who you were before you came into this transplant community and took on this journey.
So I was a student at Nova Southeastern University,
Mhm.
studying my master's degree. A full-time therapist, a mother of one, a spouse, um, a superwoman. I would say. I worked full-time, worked two jobs. I did it all. Active in the community, help people on their journey to recovery, help people find the light in the tunnel. Just 100% wherever I was needed, I was there.
Mhm.
I was full of energy, full of life, full of, I would say vivacious. I was just vavoom. You say it, I was there.
Okay, Baboon. Okay.
Um, I was just on the move 24/7, all day, every day.
All right, but you had a little one
You were
that,
living.
right?
Did
Yeah.
you expect anything to happen, or were you sick already before
I
getting the transplant?
I was diagnosed with mixed tissue disease at the age of 10. Mixed tissue disease is in the family of lupus. And so I had my ups and downs, since early childhood, but nothing that stopped me. I got sick, whatever, in my college days, I still went to the clubs, I still went to the parties,
Uh-huh.
my best life. Um,
Okay.
I Once I reached the age of 18, I was what I like to call I self-healed myself. I told my mama that I
Okay.
was 18, and by his stripes I was healed. I wasn't
Okay.
medicine. I wasn't going to any more doctors, because I wasn't having, what the doctor would say. I wasn't symptomatic,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I wasn't, joints wasn't locking up, things in that nature. Every now
Mhm.
and then they had a flare up, but nothing that was concerning. Where
Okay.
when I was a child, my mother had me to the doctor 2, 3 times out the month just because that's what the
Was
doctor requested.
required. Mhm.
I'm 18. I'm going to college. I'm not going to the doctor. I'm not doing.
Mhm.
Um, if my joints locked up, I went. I need some medicine. I go. Then I live my best life. Um,
Okay.
that
Okay.
No, I wasn't going to the doctor that because
Uh-oh.
I was healed. Melanie's version.
Okay. Your version. So, how long did that last with your own version, ma'am?
That lasted 6 years, I would say 6, 7 years. Um,
Okay.
in 2017, 17, 18, the symptoms started to show themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated college around about with my undergraduate. I graduated 2015. I graduated from my undergraduate in psychology. And then maybe 2, 3 years after that, I started having palpitations of the chest. Um, I went into the hospital um, at here in Jacksonville at UF Health. I started having lots of the joints. My joints and things started locking up in the winter. I recall pleading with the emergency room not to discharge me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this one particular visit, the nurse got the rheumatology doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She admitted me. She ran all these tests on me and she scheduled a follow up. I went to her clinic. And then she told me that I had a hole developing in my left lung.
Okay. And she mentioned earlier,
How did you feel when you heard that news?
right?
Um, I was, well, before that happened, she told me that I was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis before
Mm-hmm.
she told me about the hole in my left lung. She gave me the diagnosis first. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't understand, what that meant. Um, and then prior to that happening, she told me, that, I had the hole developing in my lungs.
Okay.
Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
And
So were
how
you
old were
done
you?
self-medicating at that point?
I was done self-medicating.
And
Yeah,
how old were
that's
you
a big
then?
diagnosis at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the next steps after hearing all of that?
At that time, I was, oh God, probably 28.
Okay. So young.
Yes.
Yes, very
And
young.
the next steps for me was really, to be honest with you, once she told me the diagnosis, I went back to work.
Like a normal day?
Went back to work because I was in denial and remember I said that I believed that I was healed.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think that the doctor really truly knew what she was talking about. Honestly, I didn't. And even with her telling me that I had pulmonary fibrosis, this is before she told me I had the hole in my lungs. When she gave me the diagnosis, I didn't know I had the hole in my lung. So I went back to work at this point in my journey.
Wow.
Then I was like, I'm healed. Whatever pulmonary fibrosis is, I'm healed from it. It don't really matter. And then the follow-up appointment 2 weeks later, that's when she told me I had the hole in my left lung and I needed the double lung transplant. Um, with the double lung transplant came good news and bad news. The good
Mm-hmm.
news is you have pulmonary fibrosis, you have a hole in your lung. That's the good news. The bad news is
That's the worst good news.
the bad news is you have a year to live. That was the bad news.
You were not. You didn't go back.
I
When did
can't
you hear this?
imagine.
Because
You've got your
I
whole life at 28. You have
right.
your son in school and
Yeah, and
oh,
I was 28 years old.
I can't
uh,
imagine you went back to work
so
then.
what did you guys do then?
At this point, I didn't go back to work. I went back to work once I
Okay.
received the diagnosis. This is the
Okay.
follow. So once she told me about the hole and me having the year to live, I went home. I was off this particular day. I scheduled off. Um, I really just sat there in awe. My grandma had passed.
Okay.
So I didn't want to tell my mom because she was dealing with her mom's death. Um, So I didn't have no one to vent to, or talk to, really, but talk to. My mom, my dad my dad, my stepfather was who I consider my dad. He was my go-to for everything. So he's gone. And now my mom is burying her mom and I can't talk to her. So I didn't have anyone to turn to. So I just went home and kind of just sat there, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
in relief. Um, and then I questioned God for days and days and days on why and why me, and kind of try to wrap my head on why. Why did he have to take my dad? Why did he take my grandma? And now why are you about to take me? Because I have a child to raise who is now, I believe my son was about 4 or 5 at this time.
Mhm.
And then I was in my master's program, so the requirements for school didn't change.
Right.
So I had to finish school, and still had to work and maintain a household.
Right.
Um, and at this point, I can breathe, um, but my health is declining. So I still have to go to work and act like everything is okay, with in the back of my mind knowing that I have less than a year to live.
Okay.
Yeah, that would make it so hard to get up and go to work every day and do all those mundane things that we get so used to doing. But
Right,
also, you want to play it cool for everybody around you. That's a hard place to be in.
right,
So,
I would just be crying, but also trying to just do as many things as possible at the same time.
and that's real. That's Jessica,
So,
you're
at what
right.
point did they say that you needed a transplant?
Um, on the second follow up, so after the scans of the chest X-ray and my rheumatology consult with Gainesville UF doctors, they talked together and they made a decision that I will have to have a double lung transplant in order to survive, and I would need it within that year time frame. But in order for that to happen, I had to lose a lot of weight. At that time, I was about 257. I needed to get down to like 165. My BMI needed to be, oh Jesus, very low, like very, very low. I can't remember what it needed to be at that time, but very low. And I needed to come up with over $10,000 that I didn't have at that time. Remind
Mhm.
28, where am I going to come up with 10 grand out of Woodlock, right?
Nope. Not if
And
I'm just in school.
right, and then I have a place to live for for once you go out of the surgery. I did have a 401k, so I did have money in that. I did have to put on a couple fundraisers to make ends meet for the stay at the Gables. I stayed at the Gables in Gainesville.
Mhm.
And so my community back at home came together and helped me raise the funds in the church, my church home, and and family. And we pulled it off, and I lost the weight between the time of August and January, because I got placed on the list February 28th. Um, and then I had my surgery March 21st.
Right.
Wow.
So 1 year later, you
One
had
year
your
I
one
had
year later you had
Were
your
you nervous at all as time progressed after they gave you that 1 year to live diagnosis? Or were you like, no, I'm feeling good. Everything's okay?
I was nervous. I was more so prepared for whatever. Um, I was
mentally as well.
mentally, I was worried about my son and how life
Mhm.
would be for him because this
Mhm.
world is vicious. Um,
Yes.
and I just didn't want him to have to live. I'm gonna get emotional, no, without my guidance.
Yeah.
And so I worried from that aspect of things, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
But knowing that I was gonna go home with the father was more peaceful for me, if that makes sense.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
didn't
absolutely.
want to leave my mom behind, but I knew
Mhm.
that it had to happen if that's the case.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't know what happened. Like at some point in that transition, it's just like a still voice came over me one day and was like, it's gonna be okay.
Okay.
And so I'm sorry.
Oh, you can. You're
Um
good. You're good.
and so I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm gonna be okay. And I have a video of me getting pushed back in the operating room. And I was just all happy and smiling.
Mhm.
And I wasn't nervous whenever they pushed me back. I was actually excited to go
Okay.
back into surgery. Is
Okay.
after everything happened that everything happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened
If that makes sense.
during surgery?
Um, so once I had my surgery, 1 week later I coded. I flatlined. During the time of me flatlining, I don't like to say I went to heaven, but I went to a place what I like
Mhm.
to call the millennium.
Mhm.
When I coded, I met my grandmother who approached me on this huge but beautiful butterfly.
Mm.
Had on a all white gown, and her wings were, she had these wings, like if you can imagine an angel, she appeared as an angel.
With
Um,
butterfly wings.
she
And
was
this
very
is who you wanted to turn to through all
right,
of it.
right, and my father was with her. He appeared the same way, and my grandma came up to me. She glided off of the butterfly, and she told me that I had to go back. It wasn't my time. And I proceeded to talk to her as if she didn't just tell me what she told me. I was like, hey, talking to her regularly, and she's like, Melanie, you have to go back. It's not your time. My grandma is very, very direct and upfront, and I was like, "You're so beautiful." Just talking to her, and she was like, "You gotta go back. It's not your time." And I was talk to my stepfather, my father, and he was just like, "Baby, you have to go back," and that's really all he said. And he kind of like stepped away from me, and I like kind of was like, okay. And I proceeded to talk to my grandma as if I would do if they was here. And she walked away from me, and she got back on her butterfly's back, and they glided back off into the sunset. And they stood on the top of the sunset and waved by. And she's like, you have to go back. But I didn't come back. The next scene was me sitting around a lake with the elders that I grew up in my community. And there was an oak tree planted in the middle of a river, and they had all of the sea animals there, and they were just swimming there in the ocean. And each one of them told me I had to come back, that God had more for me to do over here. And each one of them told me, my great great grandma, she has this voice, and I still can hear her. She told me, she's like, baby, you have to go back. It's not your time. She has this voice. And I was just like, I don't want to go back, and I asked her, do she want to come back? And she's like, no, I'm better off here. And while that was happening there at the hospital, I was gone for about 12 minutes or so. The
Wow.
doctor was in anticipating, or sweating bullets, I would say,
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
through the last um
The defibrillator,
the
the
defibrillator
paddles.
for
Yeah.
me, because they only can do three. So they had already done the second one, and the third one, of course, once they do the third one, if I didn't come back, that would have been it for me. And so I always joke with my mom. I'm like, while the doctors are over here sweating bullets, like, we lost Melanie. Here I am over here in heaven negotiating with the angels. Like, I don't want to go back. I'm doing, and
Right.
having a jolly good time. When
Yeah.
all I ever wanted was to be with my child, to be with
Yeah.
my, be with my mom. I
Mhm.
wouldn't dare want to leave her in that state whenever, you know, me going into having a surgery was my opportunity to give me a best chance at life. And to know that, let's just say, quote unquote, I lost my life, or my sunset was in the process of me having a double lung transplant,
Mm-hmm.
in the process of trying to get a better life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I had a better life. I was in heaven negotiating with the angels.
Right.
Life is pretty good with the sunset, and yeah.
But she would have never known it. She would have never known that I was just having me a jolly good time around the lake,
Right.
my grandma on a butterfly, and being hard.
But
Now,
man, everybody's glad you're here now.
absolutely.
Ooh,
I am especially glad that
goodness.
you're here. I
I
am.
can't even. That just gives me goosebumps hearing all of it.
Yeah.
So
but-
since that, have you been fairly healthy with your transplant of everything?
Yes, yes. I've contracted COVID 3 times
Mhm.
since my transplant, which was a story in itself.
Mhm.
I got COVID. I had my transplant March. Got out of hospital and through my complications in the hospital, with the antibodies and all of the stuff that you have to have prior to them letting you out.
Mhm.
I got out of the hospital I got out of the hospital June. I went in March, got out in July.
Wow.
Yeah. Then I
That's
had
a long time.
and
Wait,
I
say
got,
it again.
ma'am,
Say that again.
I had to go to the Gables,
Okay.
in their
In
area.
Gainesville?
Okay.
So I went there. I'm sorry, I have to make sure this phone's charging. Okay. I didn't get back home here I was staying in Jacksonville at that time. I didn't get back to Jacksonville till like June, July.
Okay.
And then October I contracted COVID. Uh,
Okay.
and then March I got COVID again, the Delta variant.
Okay.
And then
Mm.
and then June I got COVID again.
Oh wow. Did you stay in the house? Did you have a mask on? Like
Out,
what? What?
out unless I went to my doctor's appointments. And then they, eventually they made all doctor's appointment virtual. Um,
Okay.
but they wasn't there and they're solid yet with new transplant. We had to go in and be seen.
Okay.
And then eventually everything was fully telehealth. But the first time that I got COVID in October, I did not have the vaccine yet.
Oh, so you did get the vaccine.
The second
Okay.
time I was just having a transplant, so of course they have to make sure everything's working right.
Right.
And then the second time I did have the vaccine.
Okay.
And then the third time I was fully vaccinated. And so what happened was the first time I told God, I said, you know what? If you wanted to just bring me back just to take me with the COVID, you should have just kept me the first time.
Right. Right.
The second time, that's when the Delta variant came out. The COVID was attacked in my heart. So I was not symptomatic,
Okay.
didn't have the fever, didn't lose my taste, none of those things.
Wow.
My heart was affected.
Wow.
Lungs wasn't affected. My heart, they couldn't get my heart to slow down. So we
Okay.
was looking at me having a massive heart attack.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I was in the hospital. They thought I was going crazy because I was just calling on God's name. And I said, okay, God, if you don't do it, it won't be done. And so I need
Okay.
my heart. And so maybe a couple hours later, my heart rate started slowing down. He was like, I'm not delusional. I'm not hallucinating. I'm not crazy. Like, it's happening. Heart slowing down.
Okay.
So, of course,
But
with some and things in that nature, my heart rate started slowing down.
okay.
I stayed in the hospital a couple of days and then I was released for home. My third time catching COVID, I didn't have any symptoms.
Okay.
Treated at home with some medication and I didn't have to be admitted at all.
Okay.
But you're just feeling great now.
I am. I'm feeling great.
3 years out.
3 years out. I just came back from Tennessee. I walked the whole entire time in the mountains. It was
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank God for his creations, the scenery. Inhale every ounce
Breath.
of oxygen
Yeah.
I could possibly get in my lungs.
Right. And no oxygen tanks because
No,
you were carrying around oxygen tanks for a while.
Yeah, I did have to take some breaks. I will not discredit my breaks. So anyone that has had a double lung transplant, I say it's okay to take our breaks. I do
Okay.
my breaks, but it comes with the journey. It's my new norm, and I'm okay with it. I do have to take my breaks, but
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to be able to walk without without having to have
Oxygen mask
without the
and
pepper,
paint.
yeah,
Yeah.
all those things. So I'll take a break any day.
But you are already a big risk taker because of how you were actually able to receive the lungs that were given to you.
Yes, yes.
And so was that an easy decision to just say, you know what? I will take this, from a high risk donor. And did you have to wait? Did you have to marinate it for a little while on the thought of it? Or did you say, okay, let's go?
So once you're placed on the lung transplant list, they tell you that once you get that phone call, they don't dictate or they don't have any control over who
Mm-hmm.
what lungs come available. Once
Mm-hmm.
you match, you get a match. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so once the match come in, they say, hey, we have a match. It's a high risk. Would you like to take or would you like to decline? It's totally up to you. And they tell you the category of what a high risk looks like.
Okay.
If you decline, they can't tell you when the next person or next match may be available. Your
Right,
mate
right,
may not be available for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Um,
right.
so, I pray for not to have a high risk donor because
Mm.
I just wanted perfect lungs, right? We all want perfect everything, right? But
Right.
it's world. Um, but I didn't get perfect lungs from my standard. Um,
Okay.
so once I got the phone call and the coordinator on the phone said, we have a match. It's a high risk donor. I was like, But then
Mhm.
I told God that my life is in His hands. And so
Exactly.
once the phone call came in, I said, God, my life is in your hands. And so I told the coordinator on the phone, I said, my life is in his hands. If this is what he put in order for me to have, I'll take it.
Okay.
Um, and then I pray, that I didn't have a dry run, that
Right.
if
So all
this
the
is
words.
for me. Um,
Yeah.
so I got the phone call. It was like 2:30ish a.m. in the morning.
Hmm.
Got up. Of course, you have to take a shower and all those things before you get there, and then you have to take another shower when you get there.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so I did all of those things. It wasn't a dry run. Everything was fine. Got to the hospital, took the shower. Everything happened, and they bathed me up and took me in the back. And I told
Oh.
my life is in your hands. I told my mom, everything is in his hands. What happens, happens, and he's totally 100% in control of this whole entire process.
Okay. So can I ask you this question? And I know Jessica might have had the same question. What did it feel like when they tried to, just bring you back around and you were able to inhale and breathe on your own without an oxygen mask for the first time? After you woke up, how did that feel?
Well, to be honest with you, it's scary.
Okay.
You forget to breathe. You forget how to breathe because
Okay.
you're on oxygen for so long and you're depending on the oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Your therapist teach you how to breathe again on
Okay.
your own. For me and my journey, and I'm so grateful for my nurses and their sternness.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed it. Everybody don't need sternness, but I'm one that I need sternness. Um,
Okay.
I forgot how to breathe.
Oh wow.
And so when I remember how to breathe finally on my own, it felt great.
Okay.
The process before that was was hard. Um,
Okay.
I had a lot of anxiety attacks. I had a lot
Anxiety? Okay.
I had a lot of panic attacks. Because you wake up gasping for air
Mm-hmm.
because you don't
Oh.
can't breathe. I can't breathe. And they're like, just breathe. And you're like, I can't breathe. And,
Oh, wow.
so that nurse is standing there with you and they're like, relax, just breathe. And you have to have that reinforcement 24/7 to say, and I think that's why our logo is just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder to breathe. Because,
Wow.
and for me, it's an insider because we forget to breathe. Because for so long, our lungs have been dependent on the oxygen to help us.
Mm-hmm.
The oxygen kind of like give us that extra bump. It gives us that extra push that we don't have to do.
On
Um,
your own.
so
Yeah.
now having to do it is like, okay, inhale, exhale. And that
Mhm.
therapist come in and they teach you inhale, exhale. So when you
Okay.
start talking, you have that therapist that's like, okay, inhale, exhale. Inhale the flowers, inhale the ocean, blow it out. And you go through that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you're like, okay, I'm breathing, la 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 la. You know?
Okay. Well, I have not had to, I've never had that challenge before, but I'm glad you were, and you might have just helped to have friends that are in need of of lungs, and yeah, he fights every day. So hopefully this little message will be able to help him to remember to breathe after he has received his double lung transplant. So we're hoping, if God's willing, he'll be able to do that. And I know I promised not to hold you long. So I do know that you have a special name for your lung.
Yes. Yes. So I call my lungs Billy Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
why is because when I received the phone call that night that, they had a match for me, of course, I received a high risk donor. One criteria of a high risk donor is they may have been arrested, things in that nature. My donor in particular have been arrested. So I'm like, my donor is going to be named Billy Bob.
Okay.
Um, and I just assumed that my donor is a male. And so
Okay.
it's Billy Bob. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I assume that my donor likes to ride motorcycles because I never have been excited about motorcycles before. And now I have
Oh,
motorcycles, not saying that, woohoo,
you want to
don't,
go get one or
you
get
know,
on one?
I do have a thing that I'm going to go ride motorcycles. I'm not going to drive one, but I do want to get on the back of one just to
Okay.
see how it's going to make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it will give me another hints of breathing and feeling the wind on my face and things of that nature.
With a
Um,
helmet. With a helmet.
Yeah, with all
yes,
the gear on.
I don't want to go fast at all. No, 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 no.
Okay.
I'm okay just staying in front of my house, just go up the street.
Okay.
Just go.
I've done that. I've done it one time. Like, we not nah, just go, just put me on the back and we just roll around right here. And that's the extent of it for me, because no, thank you. But I want to again thank you so much, Melanie, for telling us, your story, and Jessica with all her good questions that she's asked you too. And I know organ donation in some families, it's not even spoken. Like, no one ever, they don't speak about it. So, um, what would you say to someone now that is on the fence about possibly, becoming an organ donor, or if they just have a negative connotation about organ donation because it helped you so much donation?
You went out on the end, but I do have the gist of what you're
Oh,
asking.
oh man. Okay.
I would just like to say to anyone that's on the fence about organ donations or have a negative um, connotation of organ donation. Um, you know, it helped save my life, and I can only speak about me. And
Right.
um, I wasn't ready to. I wasn't ready for my journey on this earth to end just yet at the age of 28.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't know the details of my daughter's life and what happened with my daughter. But I'm so grateful that he or she was a donor because they gave me the opportunity to still be here, and they gave me an opportunity to be a mother, and they gave me the opportunity to still help others in their journey in their life as a therapist and as an individual that helps save other people's lives in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I have pledged to help individual life from a different aspect, from a mental health, substance abuse, behavior aspect. And I'm
Okay.
so grateful to still be here to help individuals who are homicidal and suicidal to understand that they don't have to end their life due to their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the opportunity to still be that voice to the ones that feel voiceless and to give hope to the ones that feel hopeless because someone gave me the opportunity to still be here. And it gives me hope, and it gives me joy to hear others say to me, Miss Melanie, if it wasn't for you, I would have killed myself today. And I can say that if it wasn't for my donor, I wouldn't be
You
here
would
today.
be there. Wow. That just goes full circle. That goes full circle. And we are, again, so grateful for you sharing this little bit of time with us and sharing your story. And I am hoping and praying that this really does help someone else. And just in case someone is afraid to actually go through a double lung transplant, you might have just helped. You might have just really helped again as well. It might have calmed their nerves and know that and reassured them that, hey, everything will be okay. Because you have some strong, powerful faith, Miss Melanie. Some strong faith to know that.
Your grandma was right. She said your time wasn't ready. You have too many more people to help. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
meant to be here.
yeah.
I'm so
Hopefully you
grateful
help.
for you.
You've helped thousands more, by coming on a broadcast. So again, I'm grateful to LifeQuest and to Jessica for this opportunity and finding you, Melanie. She really found the jewel. And I guess I expect you to get that butterfly on your arm on one of them with Billy Bob name under the butterfly and everything. But again, thank you all so much. And Jessica, you knocked this one out of the park. And we're going to do this again, y'all. We're going to do this again. And Jessica will be with me. And, until next time, join us again for another episode of Transplant Talk with Nashonda. And we're going to go out of here with my video. Okay. All right. Y'all have a great one. Y'all stay right there.
I need just one more day, just one more hour to speak the truth to power. Life's not that long, just a few short hours. So make each minute count, make every second matter. Just give me one more day to get it right. I need just one more day.
Transplant Talk with Nashonda.